Hi there, back here for the third video now. Okay, we'll pick up where we left off. I had experienced those dizzy spells. There were some diagnostics run by different doctors. I was set up with a psychiatrist, and prescribed me a medication called Depakote, which I began about 8 or 9 or so years old. Ended up staying on that. I thought that I trusted him. I thought that it was going to help me. It ended up, as a spoiler here, not doing anything for me. In fact, I think it actually caused possibly some serious problems that I didn't realize until later in life. Now, this was going on about in grade school. This condition caused me to have some limitations, things that I wasn't able to do. And unfortunately, I wasn't taken very seriously about this because naturally people wanted to know information about the origin of this problem, and which would lead me to telling them, well, it happened because I went on a roller coaster. And that immediately usually resulted in them losing complete interest because they thought that it was... this happened a number of times over the course of my childhood, and I began to realize that I needed to keep this kind of a secret, because in some cases, it would be met with skepticism and a sort of dismissive attitude at best, and sometimes even like ridicule. Was never taken seriously about this, and but I really there were certain things that I wasn't able to do, and it did really affect my life. There were a lot of things that I couldn't participate in, and I tried my best to give a reason for that, but along with giving that reason came an amount of an amount of skepticism and sometimes ridicule. So just that was a problem associated with what was already by nature a very real problem for me. I didn't, I was very young, and anyway, so we're in grade school. I'm in grade school at this time, and I still have very fond memories of grade school. This was an element added to it that I wish that really tainted it. But can't turn back the clock. It was, that's what I had to, that was a thing that I had to live with, and I had to find ways to deal with it. Now, in 5th grade, there was a significant turning point. I don't know at what point during the year this all began, but as being in elementary school, I was assigned to one teacher, so that was the teacher that I was in that one classroom with that one teacher. This teacher began singling me out in class, and I don't remember all the details at this point. It really was a long time ago, and I might even blocked it out because it was pretty, I think it was very traumatizing, in fact. I kept it from my parents, never told them about it until one of my friends, she was a next door neighbor of mine, fact, I think she was no longer a next door neighbor. We became friends because she was my next door neighbor when we had moved from Litchfield to that new house in the city. She was over one day, and she mentioned to my parents that my teacher was really mean to me, and that's what opened up the discussion about this. Now, during that year, I'd never been treated like that by a teacher or an authority figure, at least not on such a consistent basis. And I went from having many, many friends to having none, absolutely none. All of my little friends there in school, it was like I was contagious. They wanted nothing to do with me, nothing. And things began to become very dark for me at that time. And so I went from loving school to hating it, fearing going there. It was a place that I dreaded going, and I had to go every day. I made it through that 5th grade year and into my 6th grade year. So I'm dealing with, having no friends, that horrible year of being with that teacher, and the vertigo, which was by itself a monster. It was more than I think any child should have to deal with. It really was. It was a really big problem that I was learning how to manage it. In my 6th grade year, for whatever reason, my parents became very, I don't know if protective would be the right way to describe it, but restrictive about what I was able to do. I already was not socializing much in school because I had no more friends. And I desperately needed to socialize. And being an adult now, I know that it's very important for kids to socialize. It's during those formative years, you need as much. You need to exercise those skills constantly and be around kids your age. You need to be, having dialogue with them. You need to be playing. Playing is really important. I wasn't doing any of that. And furthermore, my parents became very restrictive about what I was able to do when I got home. I'd like to go to so-and-so's place. Well, because I had maybe a couple friends outside of school. And oftentimes the answer would be no. You saw them a couple days ago or something like that. It's too much. You can't go. I didn't have the tools to deal with all this. At that age, all I knew was I really, really desperately wanted to go out and play with my friends. And that urge became so great, and the strife in my that originated from my parents placing these what I thought to be arbitrary restrictions on my ability to have fun, or go out and play with my friends, became a real source of contempt. I started really having a lot of animosity toward them, and I started running away. I would, they'd say, can't go to so-and-so's place, and I got tired of that. And I eventually started jumping out my bedroom window and going there anyway. Just not very far. It was only, across the street. Let's say a couple hundred feet down the road or something like that. But I'd be gone. They wouldn't know. I'd be in my bedroom because they would say, you can't go out. And, they didn't have any activities planned for us. They'd just be downstairs watching television or something like that. So they think I'm in my room, and I'm really at, a friend's house, trying to blow off some steam, have a good time. And I was a good kid. We weren't doing any weird, we weren't vandalizing things, or I just wanted to play with my friends. That became a real problem. And I ended up being admitted to some very serious arguments broke out with my parents, and they would set a boundary, and they would never give me a reason. I wanted a reason. I was a thinking human being, and if someone's going to set a boundary on me, I want a reason. At least try. Do better than because I said so. That never satisfied me, and you can only do it so many times to me before I just simply rebel. And I did, and I ended up getting sent to a psychiatric hospital, and that happened 4 times, 4 separate times over the course of a couple of years. I was sent there from 6th grade all the way to about a year and a half, I'd say. So 6th grade all the way into 7th grade. And I'm going to tell you one of the times that I was sent there. The reason I'm going to mention this is because it became well known, evidently, in town. I didn't realize this until in my mid-20s that people found out about this. My mother would have this thing where she would follow me around the house and yelling at me, and she wasn't finished until she was satisfied, whatever that meant. I'd try to run to my room. She'd follow me there. When you've had enough, when you've discussed something or argued about something enough, and there was simply nothing left to talk about, and someone continues to just yell at you about it, I think it's abusive. I couldn't go anywhere. So I'd run to my room, push the door open, she'd be in there yelling at me. It was, and I just had all this other stuff going on. My life was just absolutely horrible. Hated school. And, the history of this had gone on so long, and it made me feel so awful that one day I remember I was, this is important. So I'm sorry, I know I said I was going to do this quickly and move through, but this is actually an important thing. I think I was making lunch. I was at the counter in the kitchen, and it was sometime during the day. And she just wouldn't leave me alone, and there was nowhere I could go in the house. So at that point, I'm at the counter. I'm cornered in the counter here. And I'm at my wit's end. I'm crying. I'm so angry. And all I wanted for her to do was leave me alone. I just needed my space. I needed her not to be right there at me. And this was a last resort. This was it just sort of happened. And what I wanted to do was, I couldn't reason with her. There was no amount of, reasonable discussion that I could convince her that I really, really needed her to stop and just leave me alone. So I was at the counter, I think I was making a sandwich or something. And right there, was the knife set. And I grabbed the knife. I grabbed the biggest knife. didn't advance toward her. I didn't chase her around, but I grabbed it in that moment, hoping to just scare her into leaving me alone. She needed to leave me alone. I needed that. I couldn't stand that she was suffocating me and causing me so much stress. I picked the knife up and I turned around and pointed it at her, and it worked. She just screamed and she ran out of the house, and she ran to the neighbor's house and called the cops on me. There was nothing. There was no dialogue like, hey, put the knife down. It was 0 to 1,000,000. She just, and so that was it. I went to they sent me to a psychiatric hospital. And after you've been there as many times as I had, I was there 4 times. They said, you can't keep coming back here. So they sent me to a facility up north, where you go. That is the final step before you go to essentially kid prison. There was a facility called the Maine Youth Center, and they're like, you're going to go to the Maine Youth Center. If any of this happens again, we're going to send you as an intermediate, or we're going to send you to this school up north. So that's where I went. I went there for a few months, like 6 months. And I had a case manager, or the guy who was in charge of releasing kids that were there. And he was awful. I remember his name to this day. I don't think he was a good guy. I think he really enjoyed the power that he had, and done some. I think he's still in a position that he can that he really can have an effect on people's lives, on young people's lives. I won't say his name, but I almost want to. I mean, I do want to. I'm not going to anyway. So that was a very formative part of my childhood. I had a lot of things going on, and I think that there was. I think all of it was avoidable. I never needed to go on that roller coaster. It happened, whatever, and I never blamed them after that. I never blamed them for it. I accepted it. It was part of my life at this point. But I felt, and I still, with the clarity of 35 years later, being able to look at this with a mind that is much wiser, and had many experiences. I really think that my parents made a lot of mistakes, and the one thing that I wish they would have done was be communicative with me. They were very, very bad at communicating, and I've always despised people who. I understand we have all levels of ability to communicate. Some people simply just are not capable of doing it. But people who can communicate but choose to not communicate and control someone's life, I find despicable. It's one of something that I feel very strongly about is, and it's a rule that I live by and have lived by for a very long time, and it's very simple. It's don't impose your will on someone. A lot of issues would be sorted out, or we would be avoided if everybody lived by that, I think. But don't impose your will on someone. Now, if you're in a situation where perhaps you need to impose your will on someone, and they don't understand why, and maybe they don't like what that imposition implies, I think that it's very important to do your best to explain why. In a situation like that, I imagine it would be because it's for that person's own good, if you're a parent. and you need your child to be out of harm's way. And that child doesn't realize that the thing that you're doing that they don't like is to keep them out of harm's way. If you love that kid and you respect their desire to understand what and why it is you're doing what you're doing to them, you need to try your best to tell them, to make them understand. And when someone doesn't do that and simply relies on, well, because I'm your parent or because I have authority over you, you're going to do what I say. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. I really do. I despise that. So my childhood from 5th grade on was actually pretty horrible. I went through high school. I'll just skip right through the whole high school. I hated everything. I absolutely hated high school. My grades were, I would dare say that my grades were probably the worst out of any student in the whole high school. I failed everything. I was a bad student. I didn't do homework. Some of it I actually, there were a few classes that I really enjoyed, and I did well in those classes. But there were other classes I didn't. If I didn't like the teacher, no way. I had a religion teacher. I went to a Catholic high school, and she did not like questions, and I had a lot of questions. I wouldn't say an unreasonable amount of questions, but sometimes I had a question, and it deserved an answer. And her and I didn't get along. She very clearly didn't like me. She sent me to the principal's office many times. And high school was a nightmare. So we're 25 minutes into this video. I'm going to leave it here. I'm doing really poorly at speed running through this. I can make no promises at this point, I guess. But we'll end this video here with I left high school. I stopped saying dropped out. I don't really like that term because I was not getting anything positive out of high school. I dropped out halfway through my senior year, and it was a miserable affair there. I really was truly unhappy, and that was no environment for me to be learning in. I was already a very curious person, and I learned many things on my own. And after high school, I've learned exponentially more after high school than I ever did prior to high school. So I left high school. I was 19. I was held back 1 year. And I should stop here. I've lost my train of thought. I apologize. I will pick it back up in the next video. I'll see you then. Thank you.